Now, we've already covered why, how, where, and what to buy in reference to real estate for retirement. And today, April 26, 2023, it's important to note that because we're going to talk about when. When should you buy a piece of real estate for your retirement? Now, generally, you would say, hey, it's a long-term hold, buy it when you can. I understand. But today, we've got so many things to present to you, to illustrate to you, to prove to you why, literally, cat's out of the bag. Right now is absolutely the best time, maybe even last week. So don't delay. Do it today. Okay, so let's move on. Legendary investor Sir John Templeton probably said it best. The time of maximum pessimism is by far the best time to buy. I know that you have seen plenty of news, reels, articles, little blurbs, social media about how the real estate market hasn't quite exploded, bubble burst yet, but it's going to. Interest rates are blah, blah, blah. I know there's tons of them. I even threatened to put a couple of those reels on here, but it's not worth our time. It's not true. And we're going to prove why. So we're going to cover home sales, inventory, the rise and fall of both, and interest rates. So, of course, the most recent report on existing home sales showed that closing transactions were down slightly in January, but the same report also showed that the inventory of available homes is very low. So obviously that makes some sense. There's currently fewer than 1 million homes available in inventory nationally. It's hard to put that in perspective, but consider that in 2007, there were 4 million homes for sale, and our population has increased by nearly 30 million. So we have 75% less inventory, yet 30 million more residents. Yeah, amazing. And of course, Redlands is, my hometown, and that's the environment that I'm extremely familiar with. There's 76,000 plus or minus residents in Redlands. There's only 65 homes available. There's actually 122 total, but there's 57 that are either pending or under contract, so they're not available to be bought. They're already bought. They just haven't closed. 65 homes for 76,000 people. Yeah, that's low inventory. Okay, so now, of course, I know you're thinking, yeah, but interest rates are high, Dave, and I understand interest rates would appear high, particularly when you compare it to the 2, 3, 4% rates that we had just a year and a half ago. But remember, for the last 40 years prior to COVID, interest rates were 7%. So when you consider high, 7% was the interest rates we were at about 6 weeks ago, and we're going to look through that as well. So when you couple all of this together with, limited inventory and these things of interest rates improving, but limited inventory, increasing demand, it really lends to a good home value supporting environment. And that's part of the facts that we're going to share with you today, illustrate that right now is the when to buy. So let's take a look at this first slide. Now, this is interesting in that there it is. Yep. New home sales, which measures signed contracts on new homes, rose almost 10% in March to 683,000 that you see there. Those are units that are annualized, which is really actually the best number in 13 months. Much stronger than the estimated 1% increase. This next slide, however, is going to show us, all right, and yeah. Now this is interesting because it does represent 432,000 new homes, and getting it up in there so I can see it, 42,000 new homes, right. So it's a little bit flat month over month, but that is a 5% year-over-year increase. Annual sales pace of 683, which is on our previous slide. Now that is down 3.4% from the 19% year-over-year, but again, still good growth in that new home area in reference to the numbers that we're reviewing. However, of the 7.6 months, so if you do the math We have 7.6 months worth of inventory. Now, you would think that's pretty good inventory. That's plenty of homes, right? Well, actually, there's only 71,000 of those homes that are completed. That's only like 16%. And that actually calculates into 1.2 months worth of actual inventory. Yeah, so then the last line kind of leads us to the month over month improvement or increase, 3.8%, 3.2 year over year at nearly 450,000 is the median home price. But you really gotta consider that median home price when people talk about that. And Diana Olick occasionally talks about that on her portion on the news. That median though is, if you sold 5 houses, the third house is the price that we're talking about. And that's not the average. Average is not median. Third house of 5, median. Average, add them all up together, divide by how many of those houses. Totally different. This next slide is actually the Case-Shiller home sales price index, and it's more the gold standard. Now I say that because these represent houses that have more. Well, let's just go straight through it. Home prices rose 0.2%, so up 0.2% in February, after falling a bit for 7 straight months, actually, which is a bit of, that marks a downturn, which is important to note. But year over year, home prices are up 2%, which is slower than 3.7 in the previous report, but still, that's good growth for right now. We're going to take a look at some other stuff that helps to back this up and facilitate it, because we got to look at different aspects. But from the peak that you see here in June of 2022, home prices have come down 2.9%. Not even close to that housing bubble that people were thinking about, but certainly already starting to turn around, because you can look at the very top of the highest that curve has gone. So we've come down, they're calling that 2.9%, and this is the Case-Shiller home price index. Let's look at this next one. Yeah, so now this, before we go on to another one, and my slides are always a little slower. Okay, here we go. So, part of what does get illustrated is the major metropolitan areas that have just crashed. Now, I'll give it to you. There's definitely some cities that have done much worse. Now, and I can send this presentation to you if you like, so you can go through these slides a little slower and really consume them better. Because San Francisco is a good one, the second one there. So San Francisco had dropped nearly 10%, right? But San Francisco has its own issues going on. Just so does Los Angeles and perhaps Denver and San Diego. You could have arguments for those. But if we just go off the raw data, these major metropolitan cities are coming back. San Diego 1.5, San Francisco 1%. So that's nice to see. And those are year-over-year numbers. The change, you can look back at the others and other columns of different cities. I chose these simply because they're closer to me, and I'm more familiar with Denver than I am with, say, Miami. But always good to see that. Let's see. Federal Housing Finance Agency is this one. Now, the FHFA, need to note that that's totally different from the Case-Shiller, because FHFA deals with conforming loans. A conforming loan is $726,200 loan amount in San Bernardino, Riverside County. It's different in every county. There are maxes and mins, but if your loan amount, regardless of the value of home you're buying, if your loan amount $726,200 or less, it's a conforming loan amount, and it would go into the FHFA numbers. So you can see that this is much less drastic, as in compared to, probably should have overlaid Case-Shiller on this because it's pretty interesting. You can see that it's pretty flat. Yeah, it drops down there a little bit, but from the height to where it is now is pretty much the same. And if you actually read out the numbers, it's 0.2 down from the height. That's it. to me, that's pretty flat. I like that. No housing bubble here. Let's look at our next one. Now, this could look a little confusing, I suppose, but I wanted to include this because this is interest rates. Now, mortgage-backed securities is 30-year, 5.5% security. This is tracking for the last several months, and you can see that it came way down nearly to the 99 level. You can see the numbers on the right-hand side. You see that candlestick, the green one at the lowest level there. We'll call that 99 that it went to, and then it came way up and down, up, down, up, down. So long-term interest rates follow inflation. As inflation comes down, long-term interest rates come down. Mortgages are long-term interest rates represented by mortgage-backed securities. So as interest rates do come down, we are going to, rather as inflation comes down, long-term interest rates are going to come down. So we were over 9% interest rate, rather inflation, right? And you can see that we're down now at about 6.5 today. So much better, and it's going to improve. You know, over 40% of consumer price index, or the producer price index, is made up of housing costs, whether it's a rental or a stay away. Those costs, over 40% of those costs go into the producer price index, which is a real driving factor for inflation. That curve was way up in 2022, partially because of COVID, but the rents have come way down. Because those are coming way down, and because the feds only look at the trailing information, not the current data, that number is going to improve, and thus causing inflation to really improve. I get off on a tangent, but it's important to note that inflation is going to definitely improve, even though the feds are definitely going to do another hike on May 3rd, next Wednesday. Birthday's Tuesday, that's why I know that. And you can wish me happy birthday if you like, I appreciate that. So so inflation is going to come down, so interest rates are going to continue to come down, and this is part of what illustrates that. So so when is the best time to buy a house? You let me know.
We have a question.
Okay, there's a question.
You said the higher the number on the graph, the better. Can you explain that?
Yeah, can we go back to that?
Yep.
So on the right-hand side, yeah, on the right-hand side, I had noted that the green candlestick in the center left there levels off right about at 99, right? So, and then up today, we'll just call it, you can see the flame probably hit 101. We'll just call it 101, easy math. So as interest rates, rather, if this is a 5.5% interest rate for security, and the banks want to make, the investor wants to make 100, that's par. They're breaking even at 100. If it's 99, well, then that's 1% low. That means it's going to cost you 1% to get 5.5. If it's 101, then that's 1% high, right? That gives you a credit of 1%. We won't talk about the adjustments for FICO score or loan to value, these kinds of things. But let's just go with the bare rate. That's how interest rates are priced. So as the rebate, or the number that it corresponds with, gets higher, then that interest rate is less money, or rather pays you. So that's fantastic. Okay, so we're on to our next one. It just hammers through. It says you're running late. Get going. Okay, so so the question the statement before the question was, so when is the best time to buy? Well, before we answer that, although I think you have the punchline already, before we answer that, let's look at comparison. So let's see. And so this is going to illustrate to us if we go with interest rates of, sorry, I just gotta make this bigger. There we go. Okay, so if we were to buy a house today, and yep, granted, interest rates are a little bit higher today than they will be in the future, but they're lower than they were a month ago, and certainly higher than they were a year ago. No argument. And you might say 6.5 is high, but that is today's rate, plus or minus, given the file. If you buy a house today at 500,000 and you put 20% down, you don't need to put 20% down. You don't have to. Remember, if it's owner occupied, you may not need to put anything down. You can put 3.5% down, 5% down. I just chose 20% because it's a nice number and it makes for easy math. So a $500,000 purchase at 20% down is a $400,000 loan amount, interest rate at 6.5, makes a principal and interest payment of $25.26. So if we purchase a home next year, because interest rates are going to be lower, I'm waiting for lower rates, Dave. I got it. Well, let's see what the difference is. The only difference in this chart is the interest rate is 1% lower, making the principal and interest payment $22.71. So you would save $257 a month or $3,000 a year. Is that enough reason to wait 1 year? Let's see. Well, expected appreciation, this is by the professionals that I trust and follow, expected appreciation 4% this year. Appreciation gain of $20,000 on a $500,000 house. The cost of the higher rate was $3,084. We're going to refinance in a year because we want that 5.5 interest rate. That refinance with title, escrow, appraisal, lender fee, probably around $3,000. If you wait 1 year, you're giving up nearly $14,000 of appreciation over and above. Yep, it's going to cost you $3,000 in extra payments, and yes, it's going to cost you about $3,000 to refinance. But that's okay. It's not what it costs. It's what you make. You would make $14,000 more buying today than if you wait for a lower interest rate. So this is the most useful Excel spreadsheet that we have available for you. So investing in real estate for retirement or for whatever purpose is always a fantastic idea, but you have to know the numbers. And really the best thing is to simply get started. But if you know the numbers, I really encourage you to get a hold of me so that we can go through one of these, whether it's on a Zoom meeting, just the 2, 3, 5 of us, to do the numbers for your specific case. It's a fantastic idea. And you see on the bottom, we have 3 different tabs. There's the deal profit analyzer, there's comparables, and there's the repair cost details. These different tabs calculate and move around the different numbers and auto-populate the facts in there. So I'm happy to send this to you. Just send me an email or a text, get a hold of me so that I know that you want it. I'll send it to you. And this will help you to really know the numbers, to know whether or not the deal that you're thinking of or the difference of what you're trying to do, perhaps getting a HELOC to build an ADU or something, we can crunch the numbers and find out exactly if it makes sense. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of numbers and seen a few charts. The whole idea here is that I truly do feel like this is now the best time to buy property. Yeah, we missed out, perhaps you missed out on a 20% bump from the last two years. Well, 2 years has actually been nearly 40% bump. That's amazing. But that's okay. It's water on the bridge. We don't have to worry about that. We worry about today and the future. And buying today, I think I've illustrated, is a perfect time. Waiting is a poor idea because of the appreciation you're going to forego. Also, remember that as interest rates improve and people feel better about the economy, more people are going to hop off the fence. You're going to have more competition with low inventory. Low inventory is partially not just because the home builders aren't building enough, but it's also because people have 2, 3, 4% interest rates. And they don't want to give them up. I totally understand that. So you're going to have low inventory for quite some time. And remember one of the other previous segments, the millennials are the largest segment of population currently. They're 25 to 40. They want to have their own home. They were a little bit later as opposed to other generations of actually getting out there and getting started into home ownership. that's okay. They are out there and they want a home. So interest rates are coming down, they will. Inventory is going to remain low. Get out there and buy a house. And remember, it might seem like a daunting process, but if you just develop a plan, and I'd love to help you do that, develop a plan and then step by step to achieving it, before you know it, bam, you got a couple of houses, you're happy, maybe even receiving some rents. So thank you. I appreciate you attending. Dave O'Hara with About Redlands Realty and Loan. Enjoy.